Welcome to Beyond the Pour. If you're here, you're probably looking for some real talk, and I'm so happy to bring that to you. I'm a sommelier in Sonoma County, and I'm talking to hospitality people throughout the world. We're having real conversations, and I invite you to join us. And I am so excited to introduce Jason Coe, who is coming to us from Los Angeles. And you are the CEO of, am I going to say AAA or AAA? Cornflake Liquor License Consulting. So now we talk to chefs and winemakers and restaurant owners and business owners and sommeliers and all this. But how cool to be able to talk to somebody who is on the back end of all this and actually can tell us what it takes to basically get these permits that drive us all crazy. I know everybody I know just hates dealing with it. So I'm so happy you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And so let's start with what kind of said you're in LA. Tell me a little bit about yourself. How long has AAA Liquor License Consulting been up and running? Tell me what got you into this world, and we'll start there.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, born and raised in LA. Started doing liquor licenses at the ripe age of 14 years old. That was my first job as like a summer intern in high school and whatnot. I fell in love with the art of the sale, dialing for dollars, calling people, seeing if they want to sell their liquor license and or buy one. So every summer I just worked there and worked my way up the ladder. And then, about around 26, 27 years old, I felt that, the grass would be greener if I ran my own consulting firm. So I jumped ship, started my own firm with AAA Liquor License Consulting, and it's paid off thus far. So I'm nationwide, based out of Los Angeles, and what I find my greatest satisfaction in what I do is just like you alluded to in the intro, is helping these small business owners obtain these permits, as it is very difficult. And then you get to see with the permits that I'm able to get them, their business flourish. And being a first generation US, my parents are from Korea and China. They own flower shops. As I was growing up, I saw how hard it is to make a dollar. And so to help these small business owners in the retail industry and non-retail, as far as like winemaking and stuff like that. That's where I really get my satisfaction in doing what I do for a living. So
I love it. I love it. You said 14. I mean, that's pretty young. And then when you got into at 23, you said, I think, did you start this business from scratch or was it up and running?
no, there was no. So like I worked for a different liquor license consulting firm. And then as I just was kind of getting older, like in anything in business, you outgrow certain things. And I had just outgrown that firm at the time and felt that I could provide a different level of service, by starting my own company. And so that's when, the AAA liquor license consulting umbrella had, opened up essentially for the world to find me. And that was around 25, 26 years old. So turning 40 soon. Don't feel that way, but so.
It's so funny. I was saying the same thing the other day. I was somewhere a couple of days ago, and I'm like, you see all these kids growing up, and they're 6 foot tall suddenly, and they were little toddlers when you met the families, and then suddenly you're like, well, I don't feel any older, so how come they're just growing? This is really, really weird to me.
Well,
So
reality
thank you.
the reality check I had was there's certain ABC representatives, licensing representatives who are being promoted to supervisory positions.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I remember doing deals with you 15 years ago when you're a licensing rep and now you're being promoted. And that will age you very quickly because you realize, oh shit, it's already been 15 years, So yes, I agree with you 1000%, So.
It's a crazy world, but at the end of the day, we make ourselves feel how old or how young we are. God, you're just turning 40. You're a baby. I mean, but fantastic. I have to say baby because I mean that is like you've got your whole world ahead of you, so many cool things, but you've also got this business established, which is incredible. And last year, I'll tell you something. I decided to do something crazy. So I've got, I'm a psalm and but I have my own business. I never wanted to be in the restaurant world. It didn't fit my lifestyle at all. And I kind of just want to do my own thing and meet people. And last year I was like, okay, there needs to be the next step up to what I'm doing for my business, California Tastings. So I went and got the permit. When I say went and got the permit, it was so stressful through the ABC to be able to make my own label.
Ah, okay. Would you get an O2?
And no, no. What else is there? There's another one, isn't there? Nope. I have the whole
You don't get the boutique wine manufacturer license because the O2 is like a wine grower. A lot of boutique people use that.
Yeah, I think that was more expensive, the O2. So this was kind of like you can have a crush pad facility make wine for you. So you're not
Oh,
shipping.
okay. You did the contract winemaking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it also gave me with that a wholesale license. Oh, so I paid a little bit extra, I think. And so I was like so excited to get this going. Well, it turned out to be once I went through all that craziness, was really harder than I thought to find someone to actually make the wine for me. And so I got stuck there. So, anyways, but you do all this from start to finish for people. Um, and so my question is, are you just in Los Angeles or do you do Napa, Sonoma, California, everyone else?
Wide, in fact. So, like, will I do all of California? But I'll go to Texas and do it. Now then, it's not like a whole lot of people are growing grapes out in Texas or Arizona right now. California is definitely the hub as far as wine growing, wine manufacturing. You're just going to get better grapes out here than you would anywhere else. I've done some wine out in New York, in the Finger Lakes areas, and those grapes just don't grow as well. I don't know if it's the soil or what. That's
It's it's
See,
yeah, it's cold. It's
yeah,
cold.
and the climate definitely has an effect too. Oh, it's funny because I'll get a client like you where they're like, "Hey, I have this great idea. I know how to mix the wines. I know the flavor profiles that I'm looking for, but I don't know who to contract to make my wine for me." And part of it's kind of like I'm like the fiddler on the roof. Hopefully, I'm not aging myself for your population that listen, but I'm like the matchmaker, someone like you, and I say, here are 10 different winemakers that I've done their wine licenses for. Here's the contact. Feel free to reach out and see what kind of, extra grapes they may have to be able to create the wine and blend that you're looking for. And with the contract winery, if you want to crush your own grapes, you could do an AP, an alternating proprietorship, where you have your staff going in and using the facilities to make your own wine, all that kind of stuff. So, not just me getting you your little permit with the ABC that's just a fraction of what I'm doing. My job really, when it's retained, is to help guide you from start literally to the finish to where, even if you're like, okay, I contracted this one winemaker, I don't really like their grapes anymore. They didn't have a really good year. Jason gave me this other guy. I've spoken to him. You know what? I'm going to jump over to him. And at the same time, I have winemakers that will reach out to me because a new will go up to the winemaker and say, "Hey, I want you to make my wine. What do I do?" And the winemaker's like, "Jason, and the winemaker, Jason, I got this person coming in. They want us to make their wine, but they got to get they got to get their 20, they got to get their 17, they got to get their own, they got to get their appropriate permits. So that way I can then bottle label and then they can go ahead and distribute accordingly."
I mean, I tell you, if I had met you last year, my life would have been so different because I just struggled through this process. I reached out to a bunch of winemakers, and it didn't work out. I did taste a few different winemakers' wine. We met up. It wasn't for me. I really have to be passionate about what I want to put in that bottle. Um, so it didn't work out, but I mean, to have somebody like you that can walk them from beginning to the end of it and get the contacts is absolutely fantastic. Now, what are you feeling right now? Because listen, I'm in Sonoma County, so my hands are in Napa, Sonoma County, San Francisco, even now. Um, really trying to understand what's going on. I would love to hear your perspective right now in the last year. Are you feeling a shift? Do you feel that less and less people are even thinking about getting permits? Or are you more with the wine thing? Are you more in the liquor license with the
Yeah, I would. It's a very wild time right now. We have a generational switch going on, which there's been plenty of articles coming out with. I don't know what generation we're in right now, but the young ones stop drinking.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah.
Tell you, when I was 22, 23 years old, which seems like
Mhm.
a long time ago, I enjoyed my wines and I never really picked up like, the seltzer wines. It was more like bottles, and you bring a bottle to dinner and you consume a nice glass of wine or a bottle and or it's summertime, you have a nice rosé and some Chardonnay. I think the younger generation has just gotten away from that, from liquor, from booze in general, and
Mhm.
so we've
Yeah.
seen kind of a downturn in demand for not just wine, but also alcohol. But one thing I do know, and I've seen this happen in my day and time in being in this industry, is that even if we hit a lull, there will be a pickup again and
Exactly.
wine will be present, in the markets bigger than it was before, So right now, I just think we're in that downturn um, because of the generation that's consuming right now. The volume of it is just not there. But look at clothing, right? Kids nowadays are dressing like I did when I was in middle school in the 90s.
Exactly.
So it's gonna everything comes back full circle, right? So at some point the wine will be back present again. And I just think, when the majority of who would be consuming, there's a downturn in that, that affects everything in the industry,
Yeah. There, Jason, there's so much to talk about because it's it's very it it's a lot of different aspects. I love to talk about this stuff and I love to get information from each person to kind of get a viewpoint on it. But I was just talking to somebody last night and we were talking about cigarette smoking,
Mm.
right? So the concept of what was going on. Remember those you probably, I mean, you're young, so you probably, but like my mom would smoke in on the airplane.
Oh yeah.
And
Wait, magazines that cigarette smokers are in the doctor's office, the doctor's smoking while they're checking their stuff.
so that was going on, and guess what? Now look around you in California, especially. How many people do you see smoking? I guess every might smoke a joint or weed or whatever, but how many people do you see smoking? So now here's my question: is alcohol, let's talk about wine more than alcohol
Right.
because I feel like I do cocktail classes, mixology, and I feel there's more demand for that right now than me being hired to pour just like a, sommelier coming and pouring wine and stuff. And so if I compare that to how smoking started, smoking cigarettes disappeared, I wonder, are we feeling that? And is this going to happen with wine?
No, I don't think wine dies. I think wine is just again in a lull, and I think it will come back. And you know, wine is while there are cheap wines, I think you and I can agree the ones that tend to taste better tend to be a little bit more expensive. And I think there's a cost point to where some of these younger generations say, well, I could buy this bottle of wine for X dollars and it's only going to get me so buzzed. Whereas if I buy this bottle of liquor that's cheaper
Yeah.
than the bottle of wine, that will take me a lot longer of a way as far as what I'm looking for in the consumption of alcohol, right?
Yes. Yes.
Time really, to me, when its biggest push is when the food scene is happening. You know what I
Right.
mean? When
I
there's
love that.
right, because that's what it's paired up with. I think there's been a lack of marketing to the younger generation for wine. I just think, and I don't know if that's because the winemakers are getting older to where they don't have the sense of how to market to the younger generation. I'm not quite sure in regard to that. I know I'm very close with the Foley family that owns Foley Family Wines. He was my best friend in college. Unfortunately, before he passed away, he was the head winemaker over at Roth. And this was, 10 years ago. And I remember, I mean, you couldn't keep wine on the shelves. They were flying off 10 years ago,
Yeah. I remember.
and there was a bigger food scene then, there was more money going around. So I think just when we hit these downturns in the economy, wine takes the greatest effect first. because the cost of it to the effect of it isn't as great as a bottle of liquor.
Absolutely.
I really,
Again, you know, a bunch of 30-year-olds getting together, whether it's spritzers or the bottle of tequila, bottle of vodka, they can make all these drinks with it, and the buzz is going to be there. But I like what you just said, that wine has to go back to the food pairing side of things. And because you're not chugging that glass of wine, you're sipping on it, you're enjoying it. The alcohol really is probably not going to do, I mean, you have a few glasses of wine, you are going to feel tipsy. But it's more about the feeling that you get um pairing, these two different beautiful things, the food that is goes well with this, and you're right. I think there's gonna be more time spent on that. Um than
this might not be a popular take. This might not be a popular take on your podcast, but what I've alluded this to is America becoming more and more uncultured.
Mm.
Because I think when you go to Europe, you know this, wine is still very relevant and
Oh
the
my gosh.
food is still fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I think in America, we're starting to, and it's been happening, we're losing sight of the culinary aspect in life.
Mm-hmm.
How a certain charcuterie can taste a certain way, blended with a certain wine, and people in Europe, cultured people, that little moment they enjoy. America doesn't have time for that. Give me my hot dog and my beer. I'm on the go. I don't have time to sit down and enjoy a view.
There's no time. There's no time. Listen, you're in Paris and you see, these gorgeous ladies. They're dressed in, beautiful semi-suit. They walked out for lunch. They will sit there and have a glass of white wine for lunch, and they will spend an hour and a half, even sometimes 2 hours at lunch, and then go back to work. What do we do?
We maybe take 2 minutes for our own time and then go right back into it.
I've worked at places where I've been on the, punch in, punch out, go, go, go. So by the time you get down to the parking lot, get in your car, what am I going to do? I forgot my lunch and I've got 5 more hours to go. I'm going to go to friggin' the closest fast food, get terrible food, scarf it down, run back, you know, here we go, my time card.
What are you gonna pop a bottle of Maris cab with your Big Mac? No, right? So like that's the thing.
I don't mind doing that if I have time. No, I swear I forgot, I've got her book. She did a whole thing. It's Bordeaux and burgers or something. Forget. Have you heard of that? It got me so excited about food pairing when I started reading that. And it's so simple. It doesn't matter. One of our friends, his tradition is, if we're with them, um, they will go to KFC for his birthday, not on his birthday, but around his birthday. Get a bucket of chicken wings from KFC and a bottle of champagne. Like take the bucket, go sit, on some grass and something, open a bottle of champagne, and that is what he loves. And so, you know what? The pairings can be exquisite, and it really is, the acidity in champagne with that rich flavor of that greasy almost KFC bucket is excellent, right?
But see, I think the younger people, and I hate to be the old guy screaming at the clouds, they are not marketed to in that manner. So they don't even clue that you can match, a bill of cart salmon with a KFC 10-piece order. You know what I'm saying? So
I think I might have to start doing some of that on video.
and I think that if the younger generation understood what they could pair with certain wines, they were educated on that, you would see consumption of wine increase. You would see more wine manufacturers come up. I think what also happened is we got oversaturated with too many winemakers. In the big boom of wine,
Too many.
everyone and their mother thought they could just make wine. And what happens with that? All of a sudden, production produces a lot of bad wines. You taste the bad wine, and you're a novice at it. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm not really into wine. Like, it doesn't taste good, and I'm spending this money. It's like I'd rather get a seltzer, or I'd rather get a beer, or I'd rather get a mixed cocktail. Now all
Yeah.
of a sudden wine's out. So I do think that there was an oversaturation of the winemaking market as well.
Unfortunately, you're so correct. It breaks my heart to say this. I just saw a video of this guy standing, have you been to Napa?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, probably a lot of times. So there's that Napa Valley sign, right? That everybody stops and takes photos at. This guy is standing there and he does a video. He's probably, I'm gonna say 28, 29. He's like, so if you think I'm gonna spend $180 for a bottle of wine when I can get high for, you know,
Mhm.
30, 25, whatever, I'm not. This is why this generation is just looking for alternatives. The other thing is everything's so expensive now.
Yes.
So everything you're thinking twice about spending money. In my time, I fell in love with wine. I mean, when I was in my 30s, but I just got into it when I like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, and I've been living in Sonoma County for 30 years, but I fell in love with it a long time ago, but I had no clue about what it was. I couldn't tell the difference between a Pinot Noir and a Cabernet Sauvignon. Honestly, I could not. And so everybody I asked, they kind of gave me these weird answers, and I felt intimidated.
Right.
I really felt intimidated. And and then when I was like, you know what? The kids are off to college. Now I can think about what I want to do. I started taking classes, and once I started taking classes, I got more confused. And once I started, doing that, I'm like, I better work somewhere. So my first job was in this big winery in Napa, and then I started to be able to see the big picture. But yeah, everywhere you look, there was somebody who you know, just hit big on stocks. The guy retired and he's coming to Napa or Sonoma County and he's building this place from scratch. So those people that um, are really the boutiquey small,
Mhm.
just exquisite, small production showcase, that kind of thing. How do they survive? How do they survive? Yes, they've got their own club members, but still.
Right. No, and you have, look, big corporate has taken over the wine industry, and so a lot of these big wineries have sold to equity or sold to private equity. And, it's not really like the winemaker who takes pride in their grapes is actually growing and tasting and all of that. It's now, okay, here's my recipe. I'm on call, but I'm not, really in it anymore. And I think that we have a generational gap between the old guard winemakers to the new guard winemakers. And the new guard winemakers are ran by equity. They're like, you got to produce as many bottles as possible so we can make an ROI, which is that's not what wine is. Wine, grapes, it's an art form. To create great wine, there's
100%.
art to it. It is not just put it in the vat, put the dry ice in there, crush them, and here you ferment and produce. Now it's bottled. Okay, we got wine. It's not like that. And
So much
going
more.
back to your point about the 28-year-old kid filming at the Napa Valley sign saying, why would I go spend $180 on a wine tasting? He's right. The wine tastings have increased tenfold to where you get a couple thimbles, and 200 hours later, you're like, that was it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but in order for this to change
Hmm.
expeditiously, the winemakers collectively, Napa, Sonoma, Paso Robles, all the way down to Santa Ynez, Santa Barbara areas, they all have to get together and understand we have to market the wines to get the demand back. So that way we can get butts in seats to the tastings where they can afford it, they can taste it, they're educated, and they understand why this wine is so good and why wines in general are so good. What makes this particular year in California better than the next year? And I think if there was more of a focus on that collectively as a group rather than an every person for themselves mentality,
Yeah.
you would see it come back faster. But I don't believe that wine's going to go away like cigarettes. And I would in fact say that cigarettes are starting to make a comeback. You're starting to see more actors on TV getting
Yeah.
shot by the paparazzi smoking cigarettes. It
Oh, wow.
Look, there's still cigarettes being sold at gas stations. They're all over the place. So I don't think smoking has really died off. I think that it's just not as driven by the media anymore and things of that nature, but it's starting to come back. And I can tell you, I was just in Florida for spring break with my kid. people are smoking cigarettes. And so
Oh.
I think our little pocket in California might be just that little island that isn't, but I go everywhere else and I'm seeing cigarettes being smoked, like it's normal. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this is this is the stuff I want to find out about what you're seeing. You're right in the thick of it. And so you're feeling, few things that are very important to talk about. Yes, everything seems to come back. So like you said, the clothes thing, right? Um, the baggy pants, the this, the that, all that stuff is now back again, right? So you think about anything that we're utilizing, um, that we had as kids,
right.
and now our kids are like, oh, that's so cool. Do you have any one of those? Uh,
Oh, wow.
that's is probably in a box somewhere, right? And so you're totally correct in that aspect. I just really want to kind of discuss with you, um how can people get through this time right now? Winemakers, wineries, your suggestions right now. We Tourism is down. Tourism is definitely down for us. So what, you know some thoughts, like you said, maybe don't charge so much for tastings.
That would be one of them. I would tell you, and this is going to sound crazy, but this is what literally, I've seen it with my own two wives because I've done these licenses. It's all about the marketing, the branding of the bottle. When you have a sexy, good-looking bottle, people
Yeah.
aren't going to buy it. I have some clients that have,
Wow.
some of the crappiest beer I've ever tasted. The branding is beautiful. It flies off the damn shelf.
What's the one that what's the one that's got like skeletons on it, the beer?
Oh, I don't know what that's called, but
Dead something? It's
yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah. And then there's the water, the death
Yeah,
water.
the water. Yeah, that's water.
Yeah, it sells because it's in a can and it's got so, and that's what I'm talking about. Like I have a client, they're Tequila Mandala,
Yeah.
and they have a beautiful ceramic bottle.
Yeah.
That's what sells is a ceramic bottle. Like people are like, oh, I bought this tequila because of how it looks. So in a generation that is all about how they're dressed in the baggy pants, like a certain vibe, if you can market your Pinot or your Cab in a way that someone of a younger generation would be attracted to, just the look of the bottle, then you'll get them to drink it.
Mhm. Okay.
So
That's
I think that's one way to go about it. Now, as a traditionalist and someone who loves wine, good wine at that, I could
yeah.
give a crap less what your bottle looks like because I'm looking at the vintage, I'm looking at the grape and I'm looking at the region. For me, those are the three big things that I'm looking at as someone who enjoys wine, right? And same with you. But for the novice, let's say, they're looking at the label and say, "Oh, this looks so cool, and the name of the bottle looks nice. I'm going to buy this." And if that winemaker truly believes in their product and it's a great wine, right?
Yeah.
It will sell. But if you have a mediocre label and a great tasting wine,
Mm.
no one's going to buy it.
Debug Chuck.
What's that? $2 shot? Well,
What about that? I mean, this is the weirdest thing to me.
that just got a cold fall. You know what I mean? Because of the price, the $2 per bottle at Trader Joe's, like, but I can't. I drank that in college. Like we,
I met this lady who was very sophisticated, um, wealthy, and she turns around to me after we talked a little bit and we were at a dinner party together. And she's like, "Oh, I heard you're a sommelier." I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "I'm going to tell you a secret. When my friends come over, I go and get I guess Two Buck Chuck has different, yeah, it has different varietals. I've only tried it one time, but she's like, the cab. I pour all my reds and decants."
that's neat.
It's like she's like, people just can't stop talking about that wine, the cab. I'm like, are you serious right now? She goes, yeah. And she knew wine. She's like, yeah, I get good stuff, I get expensive stuff, but when I've got a large party, this is what I'll do. And I said to myself, one of these days, I've got to go and buy a few bottles. Is it still at Trader Joe's?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Okay. I want to do that exact trick. I want to want to pour decanters, no labels, have people taste it.
Well, and so that goes back to my point about the equity thing and these big corporate coming in because they have the manpower to throw out and produce the bottles and get it on the shelves and they'll pay what they need to pay and it will sell. I remember Kim Crawford, her Chardonnay was like boutique and it was like one of the better Chardonnays out there. And ever since it blew up into like the big corporate, the product has fallen off. It just doesn't taste the same. And that tells you that they're more interested in mass production. That ends up hurting the small blender, the small winemaker, because how do they compete with that production, that marketing? They can't.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So,
But you're saying it's not as good though. So once you taste it,
okay, but the Guggen back to the winemaker, your branding is so important because if you can get your brand out there, your just all you need is some bottles being purchased, and then it's like a snowball effect. You get the right person to drink, and they're like, "Oh, this is fantastic." They put on their social media. Next thing you know, three more cases are being bought. So it just slowly takes time, but once you hit that, kind of that breaking point with it, the floodgates open. But
right?
it's about how that bottle looks and what's on there and the aesthetics of it. Unfortunately, that's what we're in right now. I would say 10, 15 years ago, it didn't matter what your bottle looked like because most winemakers were educated, or not winemakers, most consumers were educated that wine is based off the year, the type of grape, and the region that it's grown in. You know what I mean? Like those were the big thing. All loves British cotton, as a generic wine drinker, but that's not being taught and educated anymore. It's
Yeah.
what bottle looks the best, what's the cheap price point of it, that kind of stuff. So
I know it's a really confusing time frame. Honestly, there should be a crash course in all this. And then there comes the crazy social media world. What you're talking about is where the one that sends it out to the most influencers then will get people drinking it.
that's big corporate again. Corporate has the funds to go to a person who has 1 million followers and say, we're going to pay you X amount of dollars. And you just, put up our little bottle, like put up our Kim Crawford for a quick 30-second video.
That's it. That's
You
it.
know,
And that's what it takes, right? And it's such a confusing thing for me because I'm a small business and I think I have 1,300 followers. That's it.
right.
Which makes me laugh. The amount of time I spend on education and kind of trying to put stuff out there, but I haven't bought any followers. It's a very organic thing.
Right.
And then someone, the influencer that comes and does, I've got, or is wearing a bikini and got that that can or whatever in their hand. Yeah, but it's the times that we're in. It's the
Yeah,
times.
no, there's
Um,
you know, I try to tell any winemaker because I get calls from them. They want to, they're starting a little boutique label. They're going through a winemaker to do the custom crush and alternating proprietorship and all that.
yeah,
And they always ask me, like, what's the best way to get this thing like marketed? I said, find a celebrity or an influencer and get them to promote your product.
that's it, huh?
That is the key in this current time. It's all about your marketing, media, social media, all that kind of stuff. But look, winemakers, and I think you'll agree with me on this, they're artists. So they're not looking from a business standpoint. They're like, my product's the best. I'm not hiring this schmo to go market this thing. Like, if you just came and drank my wine, you're going to fall in love with it. I'm sure that is true. But unfortunately, the way the world is right now, that's not enough to get butts in the seats to come buy your stuff.
Isn't that sad? So our conclusion is too much wine produced. Um, high tasting fees, especially Napa. Got to look at basically the type of what the bottle looks like to make it interesting, and and then using social media to yeah, market it, I guess. Is where we are at this moment.
Well,
I
and hopefully at some point the economy gets better, so that way
That's it.
just tourism, and then also
Yeah.
people that have money to be able to buy wine. So like
Yeah.
that's a big factor too. But that's something that's so out of all of our control.
Yeah, is out of our control. But also, here's the thing: when you are trying to pay your mortgage or living paycheck by paycheck, are you gonna spend money on fun stuff like wine?
Correct.
And so that's the way I look at it right now. I feel like even tourism, the groups that come over here and I do experiences and this and that with them, uh, um, mostly in Airbnbs, they really haggle over price with me.
Oh yeah, everything's up for
This
negotiation these days.
this is yeah. So at first when this started, I was like, oh well, they don't know what I offer. Okay, let me explain it. And and I lost a few clients because I was like, well, I can't go any less than this. This is what we charge. I've got to pay other people and I've got to blah blah blah. And then now I'm realizing, no, you have to almost take these. You have to kind of negotiate a little bit, but it is the times that we're in. You want to do 5 of these experiences a month, six, that's my goal always. Um, you have to kind of ease your way into it and kind of work with the client. And I think that wineries need to start really paying attention to this, that you do have to change.
Mhm.
You can't stay the same prices that you were, and not budge. And I think that's what we're dealing with as we watch these wineries, some of them close down. But I think what you're saying is so relevant. I mean, those points are change the way you do things
Right.
is basically what you're saying.
Well, there's a famous saying, Confucius, not to get too Asian with you guys and everything like that, but if you can't change the world, then you got to change yourself. And I think that's what the wine industry is going through right now is, again, that influx of everyone wanting to be a winemaker and claiming they're a winemaker. It just muddies it, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
these wineries that aren't doing a whole lot of custom crush or alternating proprietorships, they're really using their own grapes to create their own brand. Those are the ones that really need to start, changing the way they're marketing and presenting themselves to, the consumers out there. Because I do believe that if you have a lack of demand, that's going to affect the industry. You know what I mean? Big time, obviously. That's just plain and simple. And so, this the first ones that get affected are the small winemakers, and those ones are usually the ones that make the best wine.
They are. They are. And that's all you want to drink, honestly.
Right.
But at the same time, I've got to tell you, we're doing this series on French wine. My good friend, and he's a winemaker in Napa, Henrik Paulson. We are doing a French series now where we're taking a bottle of French wine under $50, and we're talking about Louis Jadot keeps coming up in our purchasing, and we're like, these are big producers, but the wine is still really good. So I need to find somebody in France, maybe Louis Jadot, if you want to talk to me. How are they doing it where they're not messing up their wine? They're still really, really big, but they're doing a really good job with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, consistency is key for sure, the taste. But I think Louis Jadot had a big following before it blew up to what it was. I think that was one of the French wines that you could get out here,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
was readily available rather than having to go to particular like a boutique wine shop to find your French wines from Margaux and stuff like that. It was on the shelves in Ralph's, right? So that exposure early on help, and then their consistency of flavor helps keep them in the market. It's kind of like the new guys or the smaller guys that weren't as exposed before. Those are the ones really taking the hit now because of the oversaturation of winemakers in the area. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And by the way, just a quick thing that I've picked up, Paso Robles is really doing well. Their Rhone Valley styles. I try to, get over to different areas to taste and stuff, and I feel like they're really doing well.
Paso's wine
People's
fantastic. Paso wine is, and I think also from a demographic, like from a geographic, sorry, not demographic, a geographic standpoint, Paso is like, centralized in CA. So you can have people from Southern California like, oh, I don't need to drive all the way up to Napa and Sonoma to get my wine. I can just drive to
uh,
Paso, which is 3.5 hours shorter of a drive. And then I can pop over to Monterey or Slow. And like you can make a trip from Southern California. You don't need to go any further than Paso to get all your wine tasting in. So I do think that that takes an effect as well. As certain regions get better, you don't need to drive further, but
yeah.
no, myself as someone who's born and raised in California, if I want to go taste good cats, I got to go up to Napa and Sonoma. I'm not, you know what I mean? That's Cavland up there. And if you want the best of the
Mhm,
best, Shards
mhm.
too, you got to go up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I want some Pinots, I can stop at San Ynez. I don't need to go any further. Jalapenos, you know what I mean? I think it just depends, but
Have you tried the Russian River Pinot Noirs?
the best. I think they're the best.
What's your favorite producer over here?
Oh, I'll go this is going to be the popular marketed route, but before they blew up Costa Brown.
Right.
I was drinking Costa Browns when bottles were under 50.
Yeah. Now it's yeah. No, we are on the allocation, and I was telling my husband we need to stop. This is crazy because it's like
It goes up.
I just can't keep. This is crazy, And but I do love it. He's got was it Costa or Brown? One of them just started his own brand. Yeah, I met him. I think it was Costa. Anyways, there's so many good wines, I think that it's got to be accessible to everybody. Um, what is also doing right now that we're not doing anymore? Maybe less tasting fees. I'm not sure.
Right.
I think it was way less when I was over there. Um, but all fantastic points. And Jason, for you guys, if somebody's thinking about um, starting their own label or getting a permit, whether it's liquor or wine, they can contact you and you walk them through this whole process, right? And and tell us how they can find you. Tell us a little bit of info about
Yeah, so you can go to my website. It's www.aaa liquorlicenses.com. You could go to my YouTube page, is YouTube AAA Liquor License Consulting. I got a lot of videos of my ugly mug up there explaining different type of licenses and how you can obtain them and things like that. My website will have my contact number and email. We got Instagram under AAA Liquor Licenses. We got LinkedIn. So all the various social media networks, and then my website, you'll be able to find us, and we'll be able to take care of you guys. And I'm actually very excited to hire Nilu for my next Northern California adventure with my wife, some tastings and whatnot. And Nilu, I would introduce you to some of the winemakers that I work with up there. Maybe a connection where you can then be able to, work with them to do your tastings and what it is that you do for tours.
I love that idea. I feel like we can really collaborate. But first of all, once you come up with your wife, I will make sure that I get you to some cool spots that I love.
Oh yeah, no, Nilu we trust, and Nilu we trust. I love the brand. By the way, I think it's wonderful because I do think people get they get stuck looking at kind of like what's online. Oh, go to this vineyard, go to this, do this wine tasting. And I think when you have a local such as yourself up there really curating a very particular type of tasting style, you're asking the client what is the wines that you are interested in, what areas do you're able to find that and curate a very specific type of tour, which I don't think you can just generally get when you just look online at TripAdvisor or whatever. So I think what you're doing is very specific and very cool.
I appreciate it. I'm very much hoping that this is customized to the people that are coming over, whether we ask them what kind of wines they like and we have them buy it and we go to their Airbnb and we pour it and talk about it. I've got maps and different things, and depends how nerdy they want to get. But also, if they want to just, pick some really cool wineries for us with an amazing view. Well, what I do is I take them where I was treated really great. You know what I'm saying? So I know the second I walk in, these people are going to be treated like just white glove service. Now, I can't say I've felt that way everywhere I've gone. So, um, it's really important for wineries to really step up, make sure that their service is top notch.
Yeah.
And that's where we take people. So we do that. And I really appreciate you saying that. But what great facts you just gave us. Lots to think about, lots to help people. And that's the whole point of starting Beyond the Pour is to get insight from people like yourself, so we can learn something. So, Jason, absolute pleasure. I know you're busy, and you gave me a lot of your time. And I look forward to seeing you over here, first of all, but also working with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And when we come up there, maybe we'll do an in-person podcast, part two.
Why not?
Attraction
Need to.
and go from there.
And we can also do that over cocktails, by the way.
That's if we're being in person. The booze will probably sure.
There is some really cool bars over here that we could hit up. Even in San Francisco. Oh my God. So definitely do get in touch with me. Look forward to seeing you and your wife over here.
Thanks for watching and listening. This is Beyond the Pour by California Tastings. Here for all your somm needs in California. To listen to other episodes, you can find us on YouTube and all the platforms where podcasts are played. Be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know what you enjoyed about the episode. We can't wait to hear from you soon. Cheers.